Today on The Report, we discuss the inquiry into Justice Clarence Thomas's unreported gifts.
Plus the discovery of the oldest black hole.
And the hatching of an emperor penguin at SeaWorld. The report starts now. I'm Noah Sakatis.
And I'm Jasmine Alvarez. Don't forget to follow us on our Titan TV Instagram at Titan TV CSUF to keep in touch with us and view our latest content.
Republican mega donor Harlan Crow and campaigner Leonardo Leo are scheduled to be subpoenaed by the Senate Democrats for their involvement with funding and planning luxurious travel for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. This announcement on the Senate Judiciary Committee arrives as the court is being pressured to develop an ethics code, which 3 of the 9 justices have publicly supported. Democrat Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois is the panel's chairman, and he plans to subpoena Crow, Leo, and another wealthy funder. Robin Arkley II, Crow has been listed as Justice Clarence Thomas' benefactor and for over 2 decades has paid for annual vacations, purchased a house, and even contributed to a relative's private education. Both Arkley and Leo have declined to cooperate with the committee's investigation of Justice's vastly unreleased private travel. A joint statement, Durbin and Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island said that Crow offered to produce certain limited information that fell short of what committee need and what is entitled, end quote. Following Durbin's announcement, Crow's office released a statement claiming that the subpoena was politically motivated and that Crow offered the committee the requested information. Leo's representative stated that they will not submit, quote, to vile and disgusting liberal McCarthyism that seeks to destroy the Supreme Court simply because it follows the Constitution rather than their political agenda, end quote. The Judiciary panel in July approved legislation that forces the justice to follow firmer ethics standards. This bill would establish ethics rules and procedure to implement them, which includes new standards of transparency for recusals, gifts, and possible conflicts of interest. In a divided Senate, the bill has limited chance of getting passed, and Republicans have rallied in opposition, saying that it would annihilate the court.
Scientists have found what may be the oldest black hole yet. Found in the UHZ1 galaxy, the hole was formed just 470 million years after the Big Bang and is 10 times bigger than our own Milky Way black hole. It is estimated to be around 13.2 billion years old. In comparison, the universe is 13.7 billion years old. Researchers believe that the black hole was made from colossal clouds of gas that collapsed in a galaxy near stars. Over the past year, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, the largest and most powerful telescope ever sent into space, as well as the Chandra X-ray Observatory, have worked together to make observations of the black hole. The 2 telescopes use a technique that involves gravitational lensing to magnify the region of space where the galaxy and black hole are positioned. Author Akos Bogdan, who was the lead author in the journal about the discovery, Nature Astronomy, said in a statement, quote, "We needed Webb to find this remarkably distant galaxy and Chandra to find its supermassive black hole. We also took advantage of a cosmic magnifying glass that boosted the amount of light we detected." End quote. Through this extraordinary discovery, astronomers believe that the black hole will help them understand how other massive black holes appear. Yale University astrophysicist Priyamvada Natarajan, stated, quote, "We are expecting a new window to open in the universe, and I think this is the first crack," end quote.
And now on to some more fun news this episode. A little penguin is making headlines as she's the first emperor penguin to hatch at SeaWorld San Diego since 2010. For those who don't know, emperor penguins are on the endangered species list due to the loss of Antarctic sea ice and the rise of sea levels because of climate change. Born on September 12th, the little penguin came as a blessing to SeaWorld and the rest of the world. Of course, this blessing did not come without complications. When it was time for the chick to hatch, it was evident that the little penguin was having difficulty breaking the shell on its own. Although the chick managed to break through the internal membrane, it was not able to break through the harder exterior shell due to its beak having malformation. The SeaWorld team monitored the egg's development between 65 to 72 days until they noticed that the chick was not progressing and breaking through the rest of the eggshell. So the team decided to intervene and needed to be very careful if they wanted the chick's hatching to be safe. After 3 days, the team was able to successfully chip away at the shell and help the chick emerge through the egg. The caregivers have reported that the chick is in good condition and is enjoying a diet of fish, milkshakes to gain between 5 to 10% of her body weight every day. SeaWorld later released a poll on Instagram so that the public could help vote the name of the new chick. The public was able to pick from a list of 3 names, which were Pearl, Pandora, and Astrid. The results will soon be announced. But for now, the chick will be known to us as the Little Emperor Penguin Miracle, who will soon join the rest of the penguin colony at SeaWorld. San Diego SeaWorld is the only place in the Western Hemisphere where emperor penguins can be seen by the public. SeaWorld's colony of 17 emperor penguins can be viewed and enjoyed by those who visit the San Diego park. SeaWorld is known to be a rather controversial aquatic zoo these past few years. Do you think we can trust them as a location?
I don't know. I personally don't, but I do want to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Because I think they've garnered a lot of attention, and, it has to do with movies that have come out about them, documentaries, I should say, where they haven't been painted in the best light, right? And, it could be for a reason. So I personally don't fully trust them, but I do, like I said, want to give them the benefit of the doubt. Who knows? Maybe they've changed up their practices, the way that they run certain protocols, but I don't know. I personally, that's how I feel so far. How about you guys?
I would actually agree with you on that. Going back to how you mentioned there have been documentaries released on SeaWorld, and we were mentioning earlier like Blackfish. They were talking about like the orcas and how they're in this little space, and it shows the consequences of keeping orcas in captivity. So hoping that, like you said, giving them benefit of the doubt that they do take care of the baby penguins.
It's interesting that you bring that up, like kind of the subject of kind of endangered species, being featured and shown off to the public. Do you think they have that right to be put in a rehabilitation center that like grants access to the public to view them?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think it's a little concerning just because there's a lot of kids that go and visit SeaWorld, and a lot of them are babies, right? So a lot of these endangered species aren't supposed to be held in a small captivity. They're supposed to be out with a bigger space. So who knows how they may react when they are closed and in a really small space. So that could lead to some danger.
Yeah, me personally, I don't agree with it. I don't like that. I feel like it shouldn't be allowed, right? And this might be controversial, and that's okay. But I feel like we should start to deny access to the public. And this isn't denying access to education. I know that that's been quite the argument, that's against it. However, you can still be educated with a picture and reading a book or reading an article on the internet. Truly, there are ways, if you want to be educated, to be educated. But I feel like, especially if it's an endangered species, there shouldn't be public access to that right now. I think what should be the main focus and priority for the people trying to help these animals, it should be focusing on that. Focus on getting them back to where they should be, which is their original habitats. Not having them encaged and just being behind walls and being exploited. Quite honestly, being exploited by the public. Just to go see them, just to make money, right? So I personally, I wish they would focus more on rehabilitation and release rather than exploitation.
Do you think there's an argument to be made about how aquariums and marine exhibits might have a more impactful outreach and might broaden their funding than, say, just showing off an article about like an endangered species, say like a whale species that's going extinct, rather than more or less showing them like in person? Because people, we as humans are very, physical things imprint on us, So do you think there's an argument with the marine parks and with aquariums that might be more impactful and that they might, receive more of more funding from the public in that sense?
I think there's a lot more opportunity for virtual reality. I feel like they should explore that.
Mhm.
Why not? You know, instead of having the animals physically here, we can maybe explore virtual reality where we can feel like we're actually walking through their actual habitats, where we get to pet the animals, where they won't attack us, or, you know, there's not as much risk factor, right?
Yes.
So I feel like that would be such a great thing to explore. Maybe start slowly shifting into an educational theme park versus just an aquarium, an aquarium or a zoo where you just showcase the animal, right? Where I feel like you can have roller coasters themed around their habitats, or, you know, you can have a lot of information around the animals while they're having virtual reality to show them. You know, there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of options there. I think it's something worth exploring. Lena, do you have anything to add?
I want to add on to, I know SeaWorld has like even their penguin shows, or what is it, like their whale shows too. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Like when they have them do tricks and like, you know, all these other different things.
As far as I know, they've kind of toned down with the animal shows, especially, you know, themed related. Now it's more educational based, but there still is that element, you know, to splashing the audience. Personally, for me, I think it's a little bit cruel and inhumane for animals such as orcas who spend most of their lives traveling across the world, across the North and South Pole. I don't know if they're in the South Pole, actually.
It's in their nature, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point, yeah.
Now moving on to the black hole. So they discovered a black hole. So do you guys think there's something more out there that they may discover?
Well, yeah, we have an infinite universe. There's definitely going to be more wild happenings. I mean, this massive black hole is probably just the start, you know. Who's to say what else is out there? Maybe even alien life. Who knows?
Right. And the universe is constantly expanding, right? So I think that's so exciting, too. I think what makes it even more exciting is we don't know what is to find, right? Like, there's so much to learn still, so much to explore. So I'm so excited to see what's going to come out of it, for sure.
Yeah. And do you?
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No. I was gonna ask about like sci-fi.
Oh, I was gonna ask the same shows. All right.
Oh, yeah. No, actually.
I was gonna ask about if you guys watch any shows.
I don't know, man. I mean, you go first, like a sci-fi show, then I'll feel more.
I honestly, so my little brother actually got me into this show. It's called Our Universe. It's on Netflix. It's really cool. It just kind of documents like shots from the universe birth to real wildlife. So it's pretty cool.
Definitely gonna check that out now. I haven't seen too many shows. I personally just have what I've read on the internet and stuff like that, but it's still really exciting. I saw that you had mentioned earlier Interstellar when we had been discussing, but that is just really cool. I've seen Interstellar as well, and it just makes me so much more fascinated to want to learn more about, you know, the universe, the galaxy.
Right.
I agree.
So moving on to, why don't we talk about Justice Thomas's inquiry into him? Yeah. What do you guys think about that? I mean, what are your thoughts of him receiving, unreported donations, gifts, you know, purchases, yearly vacations, etc.? Do you think it's cause for concern? Why is it wrong to not report these gifts? What are your thoughts?
It's a wild story. First off, you know, Judge Clarence Thomas is the leading conservative side of the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court itself, after the passing of Judge Scalia, which was a few years back. So this is really interesting because he kind of leads the right in the sense of the Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, as we have seen too in the past 2 years. So this is really shocking. I have to say that this news has suddenly come up right about a year before the election. It doesn't look very good for the conservative side. It's interesting. It's shocking. It's not good for his reputation, and it leads to some concerns about if he's corrupt. You know, if he's willing to change legislation on wealthy packages being delivered to him, being given to him. Like, is he a compromised politician? Are there others in the Supreme Court that might be compromised as well? That's really the concern that I can see here in the situation.
Right. Yeah. And I really do think it's a concern too, because as I was mentioning to you guys earlier, Justice Thomas, he would drive around in an RV and just meet people from Walmart and just talk to them and like cruise around with them. And the thing is, he wasn't paying for this RV, just like all the other luxurious things he was buying. He was paying for relatives' education, like we mentioned. And I did think it comes down to the question of why isn't he answering when the court is asking, okay, where are you getting this money? And they have recorded that he's been getting this off of loans. So I think the question is like, why is he not answering the questions when they're asking him related to this, you know? So I think that's a little weird and concerning for sure.
Definitely, yeah. It's cause for concern. I have to agree with what you were saying though as well, where it draws into question like, is he being purchased, like bought out, right? Yeah, like is he just going to maybe be more partial to whoever these gifters are more partial to? Is he going to be more partial to them as well? You know, it's definitely a question. You know,
what's the give and take here?
Exactly. Yeah, I definitely am right there with you on that. Do you find the ethics investigation of Justice Clarence Thomas to be politically motivated? Some Republicans have suggested that. So what are your thoughts? Do you think it could be? Because I know the timing is, like you mentioned, it is a little
I'd
convenient.
say maybe half and half, because obviously this is suspicious. Obviously there should be an ethics investigation conducted into this activity, but I wouldn't say this is like only like a him problem. I'd say this is probably just a Washington D.C. issue. I'm positive that there are lots of other politicians and others on the Supreme Court that are also, you know, accepting large quantities of bribes. Except I feel like there's this focus on Clarence Thomas because he's the leading conservative judge, and there seems to be this mantle with the leaders of the Conservative Party, especially Donald Trump too. They kind of held themselves in this position of authority where it's like, oh, I cannot be bought. I am pure. You're the swamp down there. And so to see them suddenly, all of a sudden, as kind of the hypocrites in the situation, I think that's what is interesting, and I think that's what needs to be investigated.
I mean, as you mentioned, there may be other political parties that are doing this as well, so who knows how long they're doing that for. So it's really concerning. Puts a lot of questions up in the air.
And with that, that's all we have time for today. Have a good week, everyone.
And stay tuned for more news, views, and info.
We'll see you next time on The Report.